Hey everyone, Anthony Fantano here, the internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for another episode of Let's Argue, where I take your hot takes, unpopular opinions, and tough questions over social media, and I answer the best ones. Or the worst ones. Depends on how you look at it. Let's see what you guys decided to torture me with this week. Lady Gaga's earlier shock value image ended up harming her musical career. I see your reasoning down here in a few tweets that you dropped after, but personally, I don't really fully agree with this because I feel like Lady Gaga sort of abandoned that at the right time in her career. I would argue that it helped her career because it's one of the few reasons people were interested in her to begin with. I mean, sure, she had hits and good songs around that time, but for a lot of people, music is so much more than just audio. It's also a visual thing. It's also a performance thing. And Lady Gaga was sort of bringing that weird, odd, freaky, avant-garde element to the visuals and to the way she presented herself as an artist so that she could just continue to grab more attention outside of the music sphere. Again, I think it helped her, and I think she kind of changed gears at an appropriate time. Death grips is overrated. They only confuse the listener enough to provide an illusion of death. Honestly, I think this says more about how you listen to Death Grips than it does about how other people listen to Death Grips. I don't personally find their music that confusing. Sure, are MC Ride's lyrics pretty cryptic? Yeah, they are, but they're not like impossible to decipher. They're not that difficult to pull apart and figure out a lot of the time. And on top of it, Death Grips, their music functions along the same verse-chorus structure that a lot of pop music does. Their music isn't really that difficult. I don't run across a whole lot of people struggling with, I can't understand Death Grips. The only thing that I see people struggling with most commonly with Death Grips music is that they're not that much into the noise, they're not that much into the aggression and rage in Death Grips music, and that's totally fine. You know, it's not going to be for everybody. Your Tiny Moving Parts review wasn't good. More like the album wasn't good. 1,000 Suns is Linkin Park's best album. This is like one of a few tweets that are like this. I don't get why. I don't get why. Like, their first couple of records are so much better. I need to shave. How have you guys not left a comment about how terrible it is that I have not shaved yet? Anderson .Paak isn't really that different or unique from his colleagues. He just got lucky with publicity and a label deal. Oh God, you guys are so mean. I don't agree with this at all. Anderson .Paak blends hip hop, soul, funk, and R&B in a way that I don't think a lot of his contemporaries do, and he has a particular swagger and vocal timbre on the mic that to me doesn't read like anybody else in the field at the moment. Sure, there are other artists out there who you could say incorporate some of those elements into their music, like Childish Gambino or Kendrick Lamar, but do they blend them in the particular way that Anderson .Paak does? Honestly, I don't think so. I don't think so. Dame Funk? But I mean, he doesn't have a lot of the same tools in the tool belt that Anderson .Paak does. I mean, to me, Anderson .Paak, he might sound like a lot of people, but I think that's because as far as music goes, he's really like a true all-arounder. You know, he like really knows how to do a little bit of everything pretty well. You know, which is sort of a specialty in and of itself. And my last review of his music, my biggest complaint from that last solo record he dropped is that it was just a little overloaded. You know, he could have cut some of the fat on there, cut it down to some of the best tracks. So honestly, he's a good artist. Crazy Frog was way ahead of his time. Fuck, that is so true. That is so true. He was like one of the big first music memes. It's so true. Noise artists like Prurient are the closest thing we will ever get to something that could be described as post-music. Prurient is not even the weirdest thing you could be listening to right now. I mean, God, you could be listening to some of like the super weird, obscure, like crazy, minimal field recording shit that you can find on Bandcamp. Kendrick is officially going commercial. Like, When did you write this tweet? Did you put it into your saved drafts, like when Good Kid, Mad City came out, and you just tweeted it now? If Jim Morrison had been unfuckable, his god-awful sub-grade school poetry would have been laughed at, not treated like the work of some latter-day Percy Shelley. I mean, personally, I do enjoy listening to Jim Morrison sing his words more than I do reading his words, but I don't know. I'm not much of a poetry buff, so I'm not sure if I can really critique there. You don't resemble a melon. Well, thank you. Thank you very much. That's the nicest thing anybody has ever said to me in this whole godforsaken segment. Toto, Africa is overhyped. No, it's not! It's one of the best fucking songs of the 80s. I'll show you. I bless the rain down in Africa. I bless the rain and nothing will never have. It's good! You and No Jumper are major proponents in the changing landscape of music happening today. Without either of you, we wouldn't have Lil Pump or Brockhampton right now. You are true tastemakers with influence trickling down past your audiences, impacting other genres and cultures. Wow, that is a very nice compliment, which I will end this segment on. Thank you very much for the nice words. Over here next to my head is another Let's Argue segment that you can check out. Check that out or hit up the link to subscribe to the channel. Anthony Fantano, let's argue the needle drop forever.